Hey guys, Thomas the Solution here, aka Mustached Tom, here to do a spoiler review of Black Panther. So, it is unfortunate that even before I could watch this movie, a lot of stupidity came its way, with all this stuff of, oh, if you don't watch Black Panther, you're racist, or if you hate the movie, you're automatically racist. Stupidity of this nature, of course, almost made me not want to see the movie at all, but I will address this a little bit later on, even though I find it a bit odd that, this is all about, oh, it's an all black cast, even though in the poster you can see the white cop and the other bad guy that's with the main bad guy, and he's not black either, so all black cast is a false equivalency at best. And this whole stupid thing about, oh, you're racist if you don't watch it or if you hate it, it's stupid. And I'll talk about that more in a bit. But let's go into the spoiler review, I should say, of Black Panther. We, of course, follow T'Challa, the main character, aka the Black Panther. I'll call him, I guess I'll call him T'Challa for this review, for simplicity's sake. I don't want to feel like I'm going back and forth between the two, just to keep it simple. And he's prepping up to become the king of Wakanda, of course. If you don't know, in one of the previous movies, his father died, so this is a continuation from that movie. I believe that happened in Winter Soldier, I want to say. I don't know. Anyway, so while that's going on, we see this other group of the thieves, or I'll call them bad guys, the obvious bad guys, are like setting up for this like heist thing at some point. But one of the ladies, Janera, I think that's her name, the one in the red there in the center, she's also played by, I know she's in The Walking Dead. I know that. She's in The Walking Dead and she plays Michonne, but I know her name's up there somewhere, but anyway. But that's who that character is, and her skills from The Walking Dead obviously cross over here, because she's the sword user in The Walking Dead. She uses like that spear you see her holding there. Anyways, they're they're like celebrating, and then he's like talking with I believe it's his sister, Nakia. I think that's how you say her name. And he, of course, speaks with his mother afterwards, Queen Marda, I believe it is. And I think it was either his ex or his sister's the princess. I kind of got those two confused at one point. His sister's the one with the blaster and the the two blasters there. And I believe his ex is the one with the red hair. I think that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. So there you go. I'm trying to remember based off the poster. My notes got a little bit confused on which one was which. Sorry about that. That's on me. Anyway. Meanwhile, we cut to London and we see this obvious heist going on. This guy cons this woman into drinking coffee that he somehow poisoned. We don't ever see how that occurs, but it happens. And the medics end up being the gunmen, and his girlfriend ends up being one of the shop owners somehow, and they end up escaping via ambulance, and they were stealing one of an artifact that happened to come from Wakanda to that location in London. I don't know how it ended up there, but whatever. So as we cut back to Wakanda, his people are celebrating, and thus they're trying to prep up for him to become king, and they make him strip away his powers in order for any of the other tribes to attempt to challenge him. None of the other groups step up except this. I didn't write down the group name of the tribe, but I believe the leader was Bako. I believe that's what his name was. And they were sort of like this mountain. They came from the mountains inside this cave area. So I kind of called them in the notes the sort of mountain clan. I forgot what the exact name is. I apologize for that as well. But he steps up. He says that this technology is like bad for the group and how things haven't really gone anywhere, and thus they ended up. He ends up stepping up, and how this trial is set up is that there are two groups from two separate sides surrounding them as T'Challa and him fight. See, I already almost called him Black Panther there. And they hold spears, and as the battle goes on, they move closer and closer, giving them less fighting space until they're like near this cliffside where like beneath them is like this waterfall. But T'Challa ends up having him in this grapple hold where Bako ends up tapping out, thus giving T'Challa the victory, I should say. Anyway. He gets fed this flower juice that restores his Panther powers, and it re-shows some of the events of how his father died. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, this takes place after that. So the sister, yes, it was the sister that wanted to share the wealth with the rest of the world, but T'Challa's like, no, we have to stay focused on Wakanda. And the people outside would bring their problems here, and that would just make things complicated and stuff like that. So, we see that one of the bad guys, I believe his name was Claw, he has the one hand that turns into this gun thing, was one of the thieves, as I mentioned, and he's like doing this other thing where they're in this like casino-like place, I want to say. Anyway, the sister hooks him up with like this necklace thing that helps the suit like take in hits and then expand that outward. So he wants to bring his ex, the red-haired woman, on the mission as well. So they end up going together. So they end up in their next location in Busan, and the group splits up in this little casino-like area. From there, the group they do their split-up thing, and they eventually see that the bad guys are there and that things are getting out of control, and the Red Commander, I don't remember what her position was. I do apologize for that. She was like a commander or like a soldier, a general? I think it's a general. I want to say it's a general of the warrior group. She ends up like seeing that this situation's going to get out of hand really fast, so the fight breaks out. T'Challa ends up fighting as well. And the guy with the metal hand ends up shooting his way out. And then a pretty long car chase happens. The car that they are using uses vibranium, the thing that the suit is also made out of. So that gives the two ladies, the ex and the sister, the leg up in being able to give chase. But they end up like almost taking a fall, but they do end up capturing the arm guy. I just called him the arm guy in my notes, so that's what I'll call him. So he talks about how that weapon he had happened to come from Wakanda, and T'Challa is obviously listening in. Spoiler alert, the main villain is his cousin, the one on the left there, who used to play one of the superheroes, but now he's playing a villain in this story. So I'll just call him, because of this is a spoiler review, I'll just say it now, I'll just call him the evil Black Panther, because that is essentially what he becomes at one point. So I'm sorry if, but I did say that at the beginning, this is a spoiler review, so that's on you if you decided to watch this review and you're like, oh, spoilers, but Anywho, so we see that the bad guy group comes to try to save him. They throw a grenade in there. Black Panther takes it in, and he tries to give chase, but they manage to get away. So I believe it's T'Challa's friend. I keep calling him his friend, but I don't know if that was what their relationship was throughout the movie, because he ends up switching sides at one point. But he's saying that he was more or less like his father, and that was actually not really a good thing. So yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm just I'm still sick, so sorry about that. Anyway, so the main bad guy, evil Black Panther, shoots his former lady, and then he shoots the one-armed guy as well. So he's going on his own little rampage at this point, trying to build up his character as this guy who just is willing to kill anyone to get what he wants. TC, or T'Challa, in my notes I did write TC for very short, whatever. Anyway, uses his king-like status to get the truth out of, the guy that essentially, I want to say, runs the battle, system there. I don't know if there's an official term for his position, but yeah, anyway. He talks about how he had an uncle that betrayed them, and the child, being now his cousin, was left behind. The evil Black Panther I'm referring to. And how there's all this cover-up stuff, and yeah. So anyways, the evil Black Panther uses the dead body of Claw, because he killed him, to enter Wakanda. And at some point in the movie, I don't know if this was when the cop was introduced, but he gets in there some point. He got shot. There's a few things with him getting information in this interrogation with the one-armed cop, but he got knocked out, and then that's when he was allowed into the Wakanda base. So he now wakes up. I forget where that happens in the movie. I believe it happens when they capture the guy, the one-armed guy. Anyway, so we hear that the cousin, the evil Black Panther, has a moniker or a nickname called Killmonger. So it took a while for the movie to get to that point where he learned his moniker name, or his villain name, I suppose I'll call it as well. So, T'Challa ends up challenging Killmonger. And since the challenge was accepted, they do the whole thing where the powers are removed for the Black Panther. He ends up killing that ref guy that does the rule bit, because he's like, oh, I'm the one who kept the secret and whatnot. And then probably the most bizarre thing happens in the movie, because Black Panther loses his powers, and then the evil Black Panther essentially throws him off of a cliff, that cliff I mentioned earlier in the movie, while he was unconscious, and he ended up surviving that. No. I'm sorry, but that's where the movie kind of lost me, uh, officially. There is no way in hell a human being could survive that kind of fall. No, it's not gonna happen. He was unconscious. He would have died from the height I saw. But, it's a Marvel movie, and even though he didn't have powers, he somehow ends up in a coma instead. I didn't buy that for a second, but that is what they went with. So, the people who are closest to L'Challa end up, leaving, while some stay behind. And the evil Black Panther wants to burn the plant, the little plants that make the Black Panther thing work in the first place. But I want to say it was his ex that grabbed one of the things before they were all burned. So they are able to get to as I referred to them in my notes, the Mountain Clan, where he was brought and told that, oh, he's in a coma. So he's fed the little flower thing, and then he goes through the death dream, I guess I'll call it. It happens the first time as well when he does it. The whole removal and getting the power things, that's usually what happens. And this time it was the father wants him to join, but he's like, no, I gotta fix this. So he wakes up, and he's trying to get the Boca guy, the leader, to join them, and he's like, nah. And then, while that's happening the former friend of T'Challa's sending out his crew, and then I'll just call her the Red Warrior, because I don't know her official. The Red General's sending out her fellow Red Warriors, so it's this red versus blue group kind of thing going on there. So they're fighting each other, and T'Challa, now in Black Panther form, uses his superhero landing to jump over the shield that these blue group guys have had. He's able to get over that. There are these rhinos that are introduced and charging up on people, and T'Challa's former friend sends them in. Killmonger kills one of the Red Warriors. I don't know which one it was. It was one of the lesser known ones, I guess. Meanwhile, that cop I mentioned earlier is blasting the ship, blasting other ships, I should say, to make sure that no one leaves, to do their evil deeds, and so on and so forth. So, T'Challa ends up saving his sister, because the evil Black Panther now in the suit, and you can see how he's the Black Panther the yellow Black Panther at this point. So it's this purple versus yellow kind of thing going on. And that's probably one of the only ways to tell them apart, other than when they take their helmets off when they're underneath this train part and their powers are draining because the vibranium's right there. Anyways, the Warriors, I believe it was the Red Warriors, are the ones that end up getting blocked in. But even though the Mountain King group said that he would refuse, they end up joining the fight anyway. The cop dude ends up stopping all the ships. The Red Guard ends up fighting off her love, which was the Blue Clan leader, I believe, and he ends up giving up. So T'Challa ends up stabbing Killmonger, and that's what leads him to end up failing, or losing. He brings him to the sunset, and does this whole bit where he ends up like the guy ends up killing himself, essentially like taking the blade out. T'Challa ends up returning as king. He gets his ex back, even though their relationship was kind of meh, and has him stay. So the after credits scene is there's two of them where like T'Challa is essentially saying to like this courtroom, I think it was like a courtroom, like, oh, we gotta, fix stuff. There's like a speech. Oh, well, before then, there's like the scene where like they get to where Killmonger, sorry, where his backstory took place, and now he's saying like, oh, this place will be like under the protection of Wakanda, essentially. And then the after credits thing happens where he makes a speech, and then there's another one, I believe. I was that Thor that I saw at the end of that? I think it was. He looked different. His hairstyle is different from that. And he was talking to the sister? No, the ex. I don't know. He was talking to one of them. And that was it. I don't know what they were talking about. I wasn't really paying attention at that point, but that was Black Panther anyway. And there were a few issues with it. Yeah, I am a little bit surprised with this this turnout. I think, like I said, the whole thing with T'Challa falling in the river, that absolutely made me go, no. I'm sorry, but no. That is where I draw the line. The whole thing with the X, I felt was very underwhelming. I think that car chase scene could have been a bit shorter. Probably just have that second half where the interesting stuff is happening. I think they could have condensed it just a smidge. This is a 2-hour movie, by the way. So there is that. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, the action, like, it definitely was, like, those parts were pretty good. They kept pretty faithful to, like, how Black Panther would, like, go about the whole trial thing, and I do understand that. That comes directly from the comics, so at least there's some faithfulness to the comic book stuff. But, and it is self-contained, except, I guess, the after credits, the second one, that second after credit thing. But besides that, it's a pretty self-contained movie, which I am a little bit, that does help it a little bit, but not by much. Again, that water scene really just, ugh, that was terrible. I'm gonna be honest, that was kind of terrible. So instead of giving it a solid 7 out of 10, which I was initially thinking I was gonna give it, after that, I honestly think that one scene kind of ruins a huge chunk of this movie. Like, from that point forward, it's just like, So I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I definitely think they could have fixed that. Done it another way where it wasn't like, so he's in a coma and that doesn't even seem believable. There's definitely another way they could have handled that situation. I definitely think that's the lowest point of the film. But the rest of it's pretty solid, except, again, the whole thing with the X, again, that part's also pretty weak. His relationship with his sister is a little bit more, there's something a little bit more there. Like, it feels like a brother-sister relationship. I'm not saying, like, anything beyond that, obviously. But, that felt more like a bond than the whole thing with his ex. Like, I almost felt like, it was almost to the point where I felt like, why did they even bring that up? That's what it felt like. So yeah, I'm going to stick with my score. And, since I didn't give it a perfect 10 out of 10, like how some people felt forced to, again, I'm bringing back what I said at the beginning of this review, does that make me a racist or something? Like, just because I gave it a 6.5 out of 10 instead of the perfect score? Um, but hey, since I'm a small reviewer, and since I normally don't get comments, maybe I'll get off scot-free. Who knows? I'd love to find out. So if you did like this review or did not, then please feel free to comment. Definitely do that one and subscribe. And there might be a feature video since I'm already feeling a bit cocky. A bit of a challenge video with that other persona. I feel like that might be coming up pretty soon. I don't know when, because I do have work now. But that might be interesting. It might be a little bit more saucy. It might have a few more memes thrown in there. It might have a few more challenges for the Black Panther, but that's gonna have to be. We're gonna have to see when that happens. But for now, if you did like this review, do all the other stuff you said, and also make sure to check out the link in the description. It'll head you over to my Patreon page, and any donations are greatly appreciated since YouTube will never pay me. And until next time, everyone, bye!